The corridor to observation deck C remained empty, Alina's footsteps echoing against polished alloy as she clutched the data crystal. Her mind raced through possibilities, all of them unsettling. 3 decades of synanthropology had prepared her for convergent evolution, for parallel development across biology, even for cultural similarities shaped by universal constants. But what she'd found was different. Not similarity. Duplication. The deck's doors parted to reveal Admiral Way silhouetted against the infinite black, Jupiter's swirling storms visible through the reinforced viewport. His scared face reflected briefly in the glass as he turned. "You understand the implications of what I'm showing you?" he asked without preamble. Alina nodded, sliding the crystal into a nearby terminal. "If I'm right, if every spacefaring species we've encountered has deliberately followed humanity's developmental path, it changes everything we thought about galactic civilization." Wei's cybernetic eye whirred softly as it adjusted focus. "This goes beyond academic interest, Doctor. It's a security concern. Intelligence suggests the Proxima conflict wasn't random aggression. The Centaurians attacked specifically to prevent us from noticing developmental parallels in their society. Holographic charts materialized between them. Technological advancement trajectories from 17 known civilizations overlaid with Earth's. The correlation coefficients were astronomical, well beyond statistical possibility. The Arcturian ambassador's question about the Great Filter suggests existential implications," Alina said, zooming in on certain data points. "Look here. Whenever humanity introduced a disruptive technology, every contacted species followed with identical innovations within 50 to 70 years. It's as if they're waiting for us to test the waters before diving in." Wei's expression hardened. "Caution or parasitism? Or survival strategy?" Alina countered. "The Great Filter hypothesis suggests most intelligent life destroys itself before achieving interstellar civilization. Perhaps observing humanity's path provides a roadmap through technological minefields." "Either way," Wei said, "we need to know what we're dealing with. The Security Council won't authorize an official investigation based on pattern recognition and a cryptic alien comment." He handed her a mission authorization chip, "which is why I'm assembling a Black Ops research team outside official channels." Synanthropologist in command. Alina blinked in surprise. "I'm not military. Precisely why it needs to be you. We need eyes that see patterns, not threats." Wei's artificial hand closed around hers. "The retrofitted scout vessel Parallax leaves in 48 hours. Select your team. Official cover is a cultural exchange mission to the Mithran Collective." As she left the observation deck, Alina's neural implant chimed with classified personnel files Wei had sent. Outside, Earth glowed blue through the station's windows, suddenly looking very small among countless stars harboring civilizations that had been watching humanity since before we knew they existed. "They're not just copying us. They're waiting for us to solve problems before they implement the solutions." Zeke's synthetic eyes glowed softly in the dimness of their makeshift command center, a repurposed storage compartment aboard the Parallax, where they could speak freely without Mithran monitoring. Alina studied the holographic timeline floating between them. "The correlation is too perfect. Look here." She gestured at a glowing node. "Earth pioneers nuclear fission in 1945, and precisely 87 years later, the Mithrans suddenly discover their own version, using identical processes despite having completely different atomic structures." Captain Okafor leaned against a bulkhead, arms crossed. "The question is why? If their civilization predates ours by millennia, why deliberately hobble themselves by following our slower developmental path?" "Fear," Marcus suggested, pacing with manic energy. "The same reason humans ban certain research directions. They're not copying our successes, they're avoiding our failures." Alina's neural implant pinged with a meeting reminder. "We need more evidence. The diplomatic reception starts in 20 minutes. Time to split up." The grand hall of crystalline resonance towered above them, its faceted ceiling refracting the binary star system's light into kaleidoscopic patterns across assembled dignitaries. Mithran music, the precise vibration of crystalline structures, created harmonics that made human teeth ache, despite translator dampening. Elena circulated through the gathering, neural implant recording every interaction. The Mithran cultural minister, a towering entity whose translucent body contained internal crystalline structures, bent toward her in the approximation of a bow. "We are gratified by human interest in our humble achievements," it hummed, facets shifting in patterns Elena recognized as formal modesty. "Your civilization's mathematical theorems parallel Earth's most beautiful equations," Elena replied, "particularly your work on crystalline topological computing. Although," she added innocently, "our records indicate you abandoned research in that direction for nearly a century before suddenly reviving it." The minister's crystalline body briefly dimmed, the Mithran equivalent of a facial twitch. "Our research paths follow cosmic harmonies beyond simple linear progression." Across the hall, Marcus engaged two Mithran physicists in increasingly technical discussion about quantum entanglement theories. Through their secure channel, Elena heard him ask, "Did your people ever explore alternative approaches based on non-local realism, before settling on Copenhagen equivalent interpretations?" The awkward silence that followed spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Captain Okafor, appearing to admire a crystalline sculpture, covertly scanned it with military-grade sensors. "Elena," she subvocalized through their secure link, "this artwork, allegedly dating back 12,000 years, contains trace elements only present after nuclear processes. It's been artificially aged." As the reception continued, Zeke sent a coded burst transmission. "Archives accessed. Found deletion attempts. Reconstructing. You need to see this." Later, huddled around the holographic display in their secure room, they watched reconstructed footage of early Mithran history, scenes suspiciously reminiscent of Earth's own archaeological record, down to tools and social structures that made no sense for crystalline beings. "It's a pantomime," Elena whispered. "Their entire developmental history has been retroactively constructed to mirror ours." The Parallax's AI flashed an urgent alert. Anomalous energy signatures detected. Security protocols activated in residential sector. "They know we know," Okafor said grimly, reaching for her sidearm. "Time for Plan Epsilon." The Parallax shuddered as it broke free from Thunderhead Station, atmospheric defenses firing harmlessly in their wake. Elena gripped her console as Captain Okafor executed a series of unpredictable vector changes, the ship's inertial dampeners straining against maneuvers no flight computer would recommend. "Pursuit?" Elena asked, scanning readouts. "Negative," Okafor replied, her focus unwavering. "They're maintaining defensive posture around the station. Interesting. They've positioned scout ships in a standard UEF blockade formation, just like we would." Zeke interfaced directly with the ship's systems, processing Marcus's partial data download. "Decryption in progress," the AI specialist reported, his synthetic eyes flickering with cascading code. "The quantum entanglement protocols are familiar, almost identical to Earth's DARPA prototypes from 2119. Elena stared at the gas giant diminishing behind them, its swirling storms mimicking Jupiter's great red spot with unsettling precision. What did the Voss scientist mean by originals? Marcus pulled up fractured data streams on the main display. The observatory was calibrated to Earth's coordinates across multiple timeframes, not just current observations but historical ones. According to these timestamps, they'd been watching us since at least the Neolithic Revolution. "That doesn't make sense," Elena argued. "The Voss Diplomatic Corps claims their civilization achieved spaceflight only 3 centuries ago. How could they maintain an observation post targeting Earth thousands of years before they supposedly left their atmosphere? Unless they're lying about their developmental timeline," Okafor suggested. "Or unless someone else built it," Zeke countered, highlighting an anomalous data signature. "These systems incorporate technological approaches from multiple species, Mithrin crystalline matrices, Arcturian quantum fields, and others we haven't encountered yet. The display shifted to show a partially reconstructed organizational chart, a complex hierarchy labeled in an unfamiliar script that the ship's linguistics program struggled to translate. The Concordat, Marcus read as the translation stabilized. Some kind of multi-species alliance or oversight body. Elena's neural implant chimed with a priority alert as Zeke successfully decrypted a heavily protected file. The holographic display blossomed with thousands of developmental timelines from various worlds, each precisely mirroring Earth's progression with a consistent time delay. "It's not just the Mithrins and Voss," Elena whispered. "It's everyone. Every contacted species. They're all following the same pattern, our pattern." A secondary display showed surveillance footage of ancient human achievements: the first controlled fire, agriculture, metallurgy, the wheel, written language. Each innovation was tagged with implementation dates across dozens of alien worlds, each adoption occurring in identical sequence with mathematically precise delays. O'Keefe's military instincts took over. "We need to get this information back to Earth immediately." "No," Elena countermanded, her authority as mission commander suddenly asserting itself. "If this Concordat has been watching us for millennia, they're watching Earth now. We need more information before alerting UEF leadership." She studied the navigational display. "Set course for the Cygnus Dark Zone. We'll analyze the data there before determining our next move." As the Parallax prepared for hyperspace transition, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something fundamental about humanity's place in the cosmos, a truth both flattering and terrifying. The archivist's internal organs pulsed hypnotically as its biomedical stabilizers fought to repair its damaged exoskeleton. The multi-limbed entity had insisted on joining them in the Parallax's strategic planning hub despite its injuries. "You still haven't explained why," Elena pressed, watching patterns of bioluminescence ripple through the alien's translucent carapace. "Why would advanced civilizations deliberately constrain themselves to human developmental sequences?" The archivist's makeshift translator crackled. "Imagine discovering that every spacefaring civilization, except one, had perished upon reaching certain technological thresholds. What would you do?" "Study the survivor," Marcus answered immediately. "Precisely." The archivist projected a holographic display from an implant in its central thorax, a three-dimensional map of extinction events spanning the galaxy. Thousands of worlds glowed briefly before going dark, their technological advancement timelines terminating abruptly. Only Earth's line continued unbroken. The precursors, those who established the Concordat, cataloged 7,814 extinction events before discovering your world. Every advanced species had destroyed itself upon reaching certain technological or social inflection points, what you call the Great Filter. The display shifted to show Earth's developmental timeline, annotated with strange symbols. Humanity's journey was analyzed over millennia. Your species repeatedly approached catastrophic thresholds: nuclear annihilation, environmental collapse, nanotechnology gray goose scenarios, artificial intelligence divergence, yet somehow navigated past them. So other species began copying our development path as a survival strategy, Elena realized. Following our footsteps exactly, not just technologies but social structures, philosophical approaches, even artistic movements. The pattern became a religion, the archivist confirmed, multiple eyes blinking asynchronously. Deviating from humanity's established path is considered heretical by most Concordat members. Those who attempt innovation without human precedent typically experience rapid technological collapse. Captain Okafor studied weapons schematics from the archivist's data. These Concordat species possess technologies centuries beyond Earth's current capabilities. Why not share these advancements with humanity? Why observe us without contact? Would you interfere with a natural experiment that holds the key to species survival? The archivist's voice carried something like religious reverence. Humanity is the control group, the only civilization developing organically. Contaminating your development would invalidate the pattern itself. Zeke, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. You called humans originals. There's more to this, isn't there? The archivist's bioluminescence dimmed momentarily, the equivalent of a human sigh. The deepest secret of the Concordat. What makes humanity unique isn't superior intelligence or biological advantage. It's your evolutionary history. Its holoprojector displayed comparative timelines of dozens of worlds. Most intelligent species evolved in stable environments with predictable challenges. Their evolutionary strategies emphasized optimization and efficiency, logical paths to overcome obstacles. The display shifted to Earth's turbulent history, continental drift, magnetic pole reversals, ice ages, meteor impacts. Humanity evolved amid chaos, developing redundant systems, contradictory approaches, and seemingly inefficient safeguards. Your civilization mirrors your evolution. Chaotic, redundant, contradictory, and paradoxically, survived because of these inefficiencies. The archivist's translator conveyed a tone of profound revelation. Humanity doesn't possess a solution to the great filter. Humanity is the solution. Your species' comfort with contradiction and uncertainty, your ability to maintain competing paradigms simultaneously. These traits, which no logically evolved intelligence would develop naturally, somehow navigate the cosmic minefield that destroys all purely logical progression. The parallax drifted through the asteroid belt's dense shadow, power systems reduced to minimum life support as Captain Okafor monitored pursuit vectors. The damaged hull creaked ominously where the Concordat's precision strike had penetrated their defenses. Sensors detect no immediate pursuit, Okafor reported, her voice tight with the professional calm that belied the danger they faced. A hyperspace trajectory I plotted should have appeared suicidal to any conventional tactical system. Elena studied the coordinates the dying archivist had transferred directly to her neural interface, information buried so deeply that it would require direct neural handshake to extract. The sensory impressions accompanying the data carried emotional weight beyond mere coordinates. Reverence, fear, and something like guilty fascination. The observatory, she murmured, located somewhere in the Sol system, if I'm interpreting these emotional markers correctly. Marcus looked up from the workstation, where he'd been analyzing fragments of Concordat communications. They've been watching us from our own backyard. That's disturbing. Consider the strategic advantage, Okafor noted. Minimum transmission delay, perfect observational positioning, natural camouflage within the system's debris fields. Zeke completed his diagnostic on the archivist's remains, his synthetic hands moving with delicate precision through alien biology. I've recovered additional memory fragments from its neural matrix. The archivist wasn't just any Concordat functionary. It was designate Alpha 7, responsible for pattern adherence verification across 17 species. What made it defect? Elena wondered. According to these memory traces, doubt began when it was assigned to investigate developmental anomalies among the Itheri, a species whose pattern adherence had been perfect for 11 centuries. Zeke projected holographic data showing the Itheri's sudden, catastrophic collapse despite their careful pattern observance. When the archivist suggested the pattern itself might be flawed, it was scheduled for memory reconditioning. Elena's mind raced with implications, so the pattern isn't a perfect guarantee against extinction. The archivist discovered that even perfect adherence sometimes fails, which explains its final words about certainty being the real threat. Marcus added, blind adherence to established patterns creates civilization-wide fragility, inability to adapt to unexpected challenges. A proximity alert chimed softly as the ship's passive sensors detected a gravitational anomaly forming 3 million kilometers off their starboard bow. The view screen displayed a distortion in spacetime as a Concordat vessel materialized from folded dimensions. Impossible, Okafor whispered. They shouldn't be able to track us through that hyperspace trajectory. Unless they're not following our ship, Elena realized with sudden clarity. They're following their own pattern, doing exactly what humans would do in this situation. The implications hit them all simultaneously. The Concordat's adherence to human tactics made them both formidable and predictable. "Captain," Elena said, authority resonating in her voice, "plot a course that makes no logical sense whatsoever. Do something no rational human commander would consider." A slow, predatory smile spread across Okafor's face. "With pleasure, Doctor." Her fingers danced across tactical controls, plotting a course that violated every principle of strategic movement taught at the Academy. "If the Concordat wants to follow humanity's examples," she muttered as the engines powered up, "let's show them how creative we can be when we break our own rules." The observatory's central chamber hummed with technology spanning evolutionary epochs, systems built upon systems, some so ancient their purpose had been forgotten by those who maintained them. Elena traced her fingers over console surfaces that responded to human touch with eager familiarity, as if they had been designed specifically for human operators. "That's because they were," Marcus said, noticing her expression. "Look at these ergonomics. The interfaces are calibrated to human physiological norms, despite predating our first space missions by millennia." Zeke interfaced directly with the facility's primary archives, his synthetic neural pathways navigating alien data structures with intuitive ease. "I've located the pattern extraction protocols," he announced. "The algorithms are beautiful. They don't just record technological developments. They map philosophical underpinnings, cultural contexts, social dynamics. The pattern isn't a simple blueprint. It's a comprehensive model of human civilization's entire developmental ecosystem." Captain Okafor maintained a defensive perimeter, military instincts on high alert, despite the facility's apparent abandonment. "Focus on finding information about this Operation Streamline you mentioned. If someone's been manipulating human history, we need to know who and why." Elena accessed a restricted database, marked with symbols matching those the archivist had shown them. The encryption yielded to her neural interfaces probing, almost as if recognizing her human thought patterns as an authorized key. What she found chilled her to the core. Operation Streamline is a Concordat black operation, she explained, projecting the findings. A splinter faction called the Continuity Directive believes human development has too many inefficiencies. They've been subtly manipulating our history, removing redundant cultural developments, eliminating noise in our technological progression. The projection showed targeted interventions across human history. The Alexandria Library fire, carefully orchestrated to eliminate philosophical approaches deemed non-essential to technological advancement. The disappearance of specific Mayan codices containing astronomical calculations that diverged from mainstream models. Carefully targeted assassinations of thinkers whose ideas threatened to take humanity on developmental tangents. "They're trying to optimize us," Marcus whispered, horror evident in his voice. "Streamlining human development to create a cleaner pattern for others to follow." "But they don't understand what they're doing," Elena replied, accessing deeper archives. "Look at this." The holographic display expanded to show extinction events across thousands of worlds, each catastrophe preceded by the same pattern: developmental streamlining, elimination of redundant systems, optimization of technological progression without ethical counterbalances. "Every civilization that optimized for efficiency destroyed itself," she explained. "The great filter isn't a technological threshold. It's the temptation to pursue logical efficiency at the expense of ethical restraint." Captain Okafor studied tactical displays showing Concordat vessel movements. "We have maybe 8 hours before they pinpoint our location. Make this count." Deep in the facility's most restricted section, they found the truth the Concordat had been hiding even from itself. Humanity's chaotic, seemingly wasteful developmental path, preserving outdated systems alongside innovations, maintaining philosophical counterweights to technological advancement, allowing ethical debates to slow implementation, had created unique resilience against existential threats. "We weren't inefficiently optimized," Marcus realized, studying the extinction projections. "We were inefficiently balanced." Elena watched the Council of Observers process her challenge, their diverse physiologies betraying universal signs of cognitive dissonance. The geometric plates of the High Observer shifted in fractal patterns indicating deep uncertainty, a state the ancient entity had likely never experienced before. Billions of lives depend on pattern stability. The High Observer finally responded, its mental voice resonating with genuine concern, rather than mere authoritarian dismissal. You propose abandoning a system that has preserved countless civilizations for millennia. Not abandoning, Elena corrected. Evolving. The pattern was extracted from human development because our approach avoided extinction. But you've been copying our footsteps without understanding the terrain. She gestured to the holographic displays surrounding them in the council chamber, developmental timelines of 1,000 worlds, following identical paths with mathematical precision. Show them, she instructed Zeke. The AI specialist interfaced with the Concordat systems, uploading data they'd recovered from the observatory. The chamber's displays transformed to show civilization after civilization, reaching extinction despite perfect pattern adherence. The Etheri being only the most recent example. Pattern collapse is already happening, Marcus explained, highlighting statistical projections. The further civilizations progress along your charted course, the more failures occur. The pattern has diminishing returns because it addresses symptoms, not causes. The liquid metal observer flowed into a configuration indicating skepticism. What alternative do you propose? Developmental anarchy. Unleashing every species to innovate without guidance. Something more nuanced, Elena replied. A transition from imitation to understanding. She accessed her neural interface, displaying the observatory's deepest records, the psychological and philosophical foundations of human resilience against existential threats. The displays showed human development not as a series of technological milestones, but as a complex ecosystem of competing ideas, ethical debates, and cultural counterbalances. The pattern focused on what humanity did, she explained. But our success comes from how and why we did it, the messy, contradictory processes that produced our decisions. Our technological advancement was constantly moderated by ethical debate, cultural resistance, philosophical questioning, and moral uncertainty. The council chamber fell silent as the implications rippled through collective consciousness. You've been prescribing the medicine without understanding the diagnosis, Elena continued. The pattern works initially because it forces developing civilizations to incorporate the balancing elements embedded in human history. But without understanding why those elements matter, species eventually optimize them away, believing they've outgrown the need for inefficient safeguards. Captain Okafor, standing at military attention beside Elena, spoke for the first time. Consider warfare. Human military doctrine evolved through brutal trial and error. We learned that centralized command structures fail catastrophically under certain conditions, so we develop redundant, sometimes contradictory command protocols that appear inefficient but prevent total systemic collapse. The High Observer's geometric form reconfigured, plates aligning into a pattern the translation matrix identified as profound realization. You propose teaching species not to follow humanity's path, it said slowly, but to understand humanity's methodology. Elena nodded. The pattern preserved the what. Now it's time to share the why. 6 months after the historic negotiations with the Concordat, Elena stood in the presentation chamber of Jupiter's L4 Lagrange Point facility, officially designated Convergence Station, but already nicknamed Pattern Break by its human staff. Before her, representatives from 87 worlds waited in environmental chambers tailored to their diverse biologies, their attention focused on the human who had changed galactic civilization's fundamental paradigm. Welcome to the first Adaptive Development Initiative Summit, Elena began, her voice translated simultaneously into dozens of communication formats. Today marks a transition from imitation to innovation, from following to understanding. Behind her, holographic displays showed developmental paths diverging from established patterns, new branches of possibility extending where once only linear progression had been permitted. Each branch represented a civilization cautiously exploring alternatives to the rigid pattern that had constrained them for millennia. The pattern served its purpose, Elena continued. It guided developing civilizations away from extinction thresholds. But its limitations have become increasingly apparent. By copying human development without understanding the underlying principles, species missed the crucial element of our success: our capacity to balance technological advancement with ethical restraint, to maintain cultural diversity despite pressure for optimization. She nodded to Marcus, who activated the immersion protocols. The chamber transformed into a recreation of ancient Athens, the agora bustling with philosophers engaged in passionate debate about governance, ethics, and the nature of knowledge. We begin not with technologies but with processes, Elena explained as aliens observed the contentious arguments with fascination. This is how human civilization navigated existential risks, through continuous ethical debate that restrained technological implementation until consensus on safeguards emerged. The scene shifted to recreations of subsequent human developmental milestones, not just the inventions themselves, but the social contexts that shaped them, the competing perspectives that moderated their implementation, the redundant systems that prevented catastrophic failures. Our species didn't thrive because we were smarter or more advanced, Elena told them. We survived because we preserved diversity of thought, maintained competing paradigms, and embraced uncertainty rather than rushing toward apparent optimization. In the months that followed, the exchange continued. Alien civilizations cautiously shared technologies filtered through human ethical frameworks, while humanity provided not blueprints but methodologies, approaches to balanced development that each species could adapt to their unique contexts. Resistance came from both sides. Concordat traditionalists warned of pattern collapse. Human isolationists feared technological contamination. Yet the evidence became increasingly clear. Civilizations adopting the adaptive development approach began to flourish, developing unique innovations that benefited all. 5 years later, Admiral Wade joined Elena on Harmony Station's observation deck, now a hub of interspecies collaboration unlike anything previously imagined. Below them, humans worked alongside former enemies, their methodologies complementing each other in ways neither could have achieved alone. They're combining 3 different approaches rather than selecting the optimal solution, Wei observed, watching a mixed engineering team. Pure human influence. Elena smiled, noting how the Mithran scientist approaching them radiated enthusiasm through its crystalline structure. The young alien's mathematical equations, displayed holographically between them, represented something genuinely new, neither human nor Mithran, but a unique hybrid approach impossible under the old pattern. I think I've found my own path, the Mithran said proudly. As Earth's light caught the crystalline being's facets, Elena recognized what humanity had truly given the galaxy. Not answers, but questions. Not certainty, but the courage to doubt. Not a destination, but the freedom to explore.